So, a major war has erupted, and the headlines, they're everywhere, right? But here's the thing. This conflict didn't just appear out of thin air. Think of it like a crack that's finally shattered after decades of pressure building up, just beneath the surface. To understand why it's all happening now, we have to trace the story all the way back to the beginning.
It's the question on everyone's mind. How on earth did we get here? And to really answer it, we got to put on our detective hats. We're on the hunt for those critical clues, the ones that maybe got overlooked, the pieces of a pattern that's been taking shape for, get this, over 40 years.
All right, so our investigation, it starts right now, in 2026. Open conflict is dominating the news. And yeah, it feels totally sudden, chaotic, like it came out of nowhere. But what if I told you this moment wasn't just predictable? What if it was, well, almost inevitable?
And that's exactly why, to really get what's going on, we can't just look at the explosion itself. No, we have to follow the fuse. And to do that, we've got to hit rewind.
Okay, let's do it. Let's rewind the clock. We're going to start peeling back the layers of history one by one to find those key moments, those turning points that set all of this in motion. And trust me, this isn't going to be some dry history lesson. This is about understanding the anatomy of a chain reaction.
So, as the timeline scrolls back from 2026, we hit our first major stop, 2018. This is when that fragile nuclear accord, the JCPOA, just collapsed. It basically ripped away the last diplomatic guardrails. Go back even further, into the 2000s, and you see this huge escalation in proxy conflicts. I mean, the whole region was just poisoned with mistrust. But here's the thing. Even that isn't the real starting point. We have to keep going, all the way back, to one single pivotal year.
And here we are, 1979. This is the one. This is the year that planted the seeds for everything, and I mean everything we're seeing today. It was like a political earthquake that just completely and permanently changed the landscape of the Middle East.
You see, back in 1979, the Iranian Revolution, it didn't just change a country, it literally redrew the entire geopolitical map. It totally upended old alliances, sparked brand new rivalries, and kicked off this huge ideological clash that would define the next generation and the one after that.
And here's why that's so crucial. This revolution, it wasn't just a local event. It triggered a massive geopolitical shift. A country that was a key partner with the West became, practically overnight, one of its biggest ideological adversaries. I mean, the entire rulebook for how things worked in the region, just torn up and thrown out.
I mean, just look at the contrast here. It's so stark, you can't miss it. Before 1979, you had cooperation, shared interests, a sense of stability. But after 79, it completely flipped. It became all about hostility, this deep ideological clash, and intense regional rivalry. This one change is the absolute key to understanding everything that came next.
Now, with direct war being way too risky for everyone, this new rivalry didn't just explode into open conflict. Not right away, at least. Instead, it kind of went underground. It morphed into this new kind of fight, a long, simmering shadow war, fought through intermediaries.
So the whole region basically turns into this giant, high-stakes chessboard. Instead of fighting each other head-on, the big powers started backing opposite sides in local conflicts, everywhere from Syria to Yemen. Suddenly, every civil war, every little insurgency became just another battleground in this much larger struggle. And all that did was fuel more instability and deepen the mistrust, year after year.
Someone once called it a war fought without fingerprints. And honestly, that's the perfect way to describe it. See, using proxies lets you push your agenda, attack your rivals, all while being able to say, hey, it wasn't me. And that plausible deniability, it makes trying to calm things down incredibly, incredibly difficult.
Okay, let's fast forward a bit to the next major turning point on our timeline. After decades of this shadow war simmering, there was this huge effort to pull back from the edge. A really high-stakes diplomatic play, and it was all centered around Iran's nuclear program. This was a moment that brought a lot of hope. But, man, it also created some deep, deep divisions.
So, what was this deal? Well, at its core, it was a pretty classic diplomatic trade-off. It was a you give us this, we give you that kind of situation. Basically, Iran agreed to seriously limit its nuclear program and let international inspectors have a look around. In return, those crippling economic sanctions that had been in place for years would be lifted. The big picture goal for everyone was pretty simple: block any path to a nuclear weapon and hopefully stop a massive war from breaking out.
And you know what? For a little while, it actually seemed to be working. Tensions in the region really did go down. But then came 2018, and the whole deal fell apart.
And the effect was, well, it was immediate and it was dramatic. All those diplomatic safety nets, gone. Regional tensions didn't just go back to where they were before, they skyrocketed, way higher than ever.
Okay, so now let's take a step back and connect all these dots. It's pretty clear, right? This wasn't about one single event. It was a domino effect. Every single moment we've looked at is another link in this long, unbroken chain that stretches all the way from 1979 to right now.
So let's just quickly trace that path one more time. It's so clear. Step 1, the 79 revolution creates a new reality, turning allies into adversaries. Step 2, decades of these shadow wars build up this massive wall of distrust. Step 3, the nuclear deal fails, which takes away the last real off-ramp and raises the stakes through the roof. And that final domino to fall? Well, direct, open conflict becomes pretty much inevitable.
And that right there is the core idea to take away from all of this. For more than 40 years, the pressure was just building and building, one crisis after another, mostly happening in the shadows, away from the big headlines. It's just proof that history, it often builds slowly, quietly, but when it finally erupts, it happens suddenly and with unbelievable force.
So, there you have it. We can now see that long, winding road that led us to today. We've answered the question of how this all happened. But, that just brings up an even bigger, tougher question. Now that we understand the chain of events, what happens next?